Hello, how are you doing? Let me get caption on. And let me share screen. Okay, so we're gonna finish up assignment 2. Don't forget that there's a quiz, a very short one. Do the game. If you have your score, you can submit it for extra credit, just a screenshot of it. You can do it on your phone or on your computer. You can, if you wish to bring your laptop or your computers, you're welcome to do that. For our trip, especially for the project, I just need you to have something to record your data. So whether you want to do it on your phone or on a notebook, that's really up to you. So I am bringing laptops and a tablet so that way I can watch movies when I'm on the plane and I can do some work while I'm traveling. So we are going to finish up assignment 2 now. We left off at number 11. So I will walk you through the rest. And then after tonight, you can turn it in, but it's not due until Sunday. I'm assuming that we should be able to have internet in various locations. There are some spots that we might not have all internet, but most of the hotels we're going to stay in, it's going to have wireless access. Okay. I'm a little skeptical about public Wi-Fi only because, you know, but you can always use your phone as hotspot, right? If you have data package, that's good. But if not, normally I travel with a hotspot from Verizon and I just didn't want to pay for another data package. So I'm going to use my phone for most part. But, you know, now is the time to kind of start prepping, making sure that you have everything that you need. And then for, if you're planning to take the train back, I did look online for the schedule. So if we arrive at 4 p.m. when we return on the 27th, give or take with custom, you do have options to be, this is to downtown Riverside, and you can search for other location. So let's say that it takes us an hour and the bus runs every 30 minutes. And so you don't have to buy tickets for the bus. All you have to do is stand at the Skyway for Metrolink. And what they're going to do is they're going to take you to the Union train station. So if you take the train, it would only be about an hour and 30 minutes nonstop. It's usually great. I normally just bring a book and I would read or sleep on the train. And then when you get there, so let's say that if we get on the train at about 5 something, you should be arriving before 7 p.m. And then you can either Lyft or Uber home or have someone to pick you up if they don't want to come and pick you up at LAX. So that's an alternate option if you do Metrolink. But be careful with some of the other ones, these OC lines right here. Sometimes you have to change train, or sometimes it goes a little bit further out and then come back to Riverside. So, so just make sure you check the schedule. But in general, it's about an hour and 30 minutes, which is, it beats the driving on Friday evening, I'm going to tell you. So, so that will be a good option for you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We are going to open up our Tani, or if you're using online interpreter or another IDE, you're welcome to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up exercise 12. And let's talk about that. Okay, so we had left off with number 11. So if you didn't catch number 11, we skipped 10. So watch the video. I had linked it to the assignment page along with the video page. So now we're going to do number 12. And in this, what we're going to do is we're going to practice writing additional functions so that way you know how. So by the end of this assignment, you should be very comfortable with writing Python functions. And functions just designed to do a task, right? You just got to give it a name and you got to call it at the end. So when we need to write a function and we want to display an integer, whether it's odd or even. So we would need to ask the user to enter a number, right? Or we would have to hard code it in, and we would need to be able to determine whether that number is odd or even. This is a very common type of exercise that a lot of companies like to use. for interview questions, especially for developer and programmer. So we need to define a function and we need to include conditional statement, right? And we can have it divisible by 2. If there's remainder, then it's an odd number. If there's no remainder, right, it's an even number. And then we just have to call the function to make sure that way it executes. And in Python, at the bottom is where your main area is. So think of a main as like the parent of the program. And whenever the parents need the function, right, or the child to do something, it calls it, right? So in all programming language, you have to have some form of main. And for Python, main is at the bottom of your program. So here we go. In Tani, let me zoom in real quick. Sorry, I had to decrease the font earlier. Okay, so we simply start with a function by using a keyword def. Okay, and def allows us to define a function in Python. So we would say def, def, and you can call this anything you want, right? I choose to use f odd for even and odd because that's the intention of our program. And I want to use a condition statement if num mod 2 and the percentage symbol stands for the operator mod or modulo or modulus. What this does is we're able to determine the remainder after dividing by 2. So mod, what that does is you divide by the number following the mod symbol. And if it is a 1, right? If there's a remainder, then that means it's an odd number. If it is a 0, then it is an even number. So we would say if num, right, the number is mod 2 is a 0, if there's no remainder, we want to print num is even, right? Our number is even. Else, we would print num is odd. Really easy. And in this case, I hard-coded the number in, and you can use any number you want. Okay, you can use, 1,000 something, 25, whatever, right? So after I have the function, I will call it here at the bottom. And I want to pass the value as it would plug into num here. So this is what we would use as passing the variable into a function. So when you define your function, you don't need to put in the number. You would put in the number when you call. Okay. Now, if I do an input, right, I would take that input, store it into num, and then be able to pass num. That's it. So you would say num is, right, input, enter a number, and then pass it. So there are several ways that you can do this, and this is what we call hard coding, is where you plug in the number in your code instead of having the user interface with your program and enter the number. So we simply have it mod 2, check for the remainder. If it is 0, then it is even. So if I take 2,347 divided by 2, I would have a remainder. So it's going to go to the else because it doesn't check true here. And it's going to tell me that this number is an odd number. Okay. And now if I change up the value, right, like let's say I use 2,000 as a number, I should have, it should check true here and it should say it's an even number. So whatever number you use, you just simply put it in here and then you would pass it using num. Now, the nice thing about Python is, you notice, I did not have to define what num is at the beginning. You see that? Right? You can make it a global variable so that way we can use it inside the function. But with Python, it is forgiving in that I can define it as I go. Okay. Other languages, you have to say what num is and what num is a value, right? So we would say int num is this, and then pass it. Okay. But you can definitely use input there and be able to pass num and call it. So there we go. That is number 12 in assignment 2. We just need to determine if our number is odd or even. So in this, you learn how to define a function, give it a name, tell it what it needs to check for, right? In our case, odd or even, and then call the function with the value that you want to use. So in your function call, this is where we plug in the number. If you don't do that, you have to define it at the beginning and then be able to do that. So it has to find a way to determine, right, to execute. So any questions regarding exercise 12? Very easy. So now you're able to have a function for odd or even number. In C++ or Java, this will be like 8-9 lines, right? Or even 5 lines or more, right? For us, it's like 4 lines. Now, also you notice that I didn't have to go to the next line and indent. You can do that, right? So the body of the function is here. When you call the function, it's going to execute its body, what you're telling it to do, right? So a function is just a task for the program. So when you're using an app, like for your games or, you know, to manage your finance, or even maps, right? All of those apps have lots of functions that's built within, like something for search, like a location, and then also to be able to display things on screen. So we can write function for everything. And you want to do that so that way you can control it. Okay. All right. Any questions? Are we okay with this? Let's do the next one now. Okay. So for 13, we are going to write multiple file programs, right? And so in your notes, it talks about a module. Whenever you hear the term module in Python, basically it is a Python file, like the program that we just wrote. But we're going to give it a name. Okay, so instead of naming it like exercise 13, we're going to have to name it this way so we can use it in other files, right? It's like you found an article with a title, and whenever that you quote from that article, you're going to cite from the title, right? So what you're going to do is you are going to create a file and make sure that we save it this name, text info. Otherwise, it doesn't work later on. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to be able to display some form of string. We want to convert the string to uppercase. So we're going to use upper, and we are going to print to check to see if it is alphanumeric. Okay. So here is my text info. Okay. So when you open your file and save your file, make sure that you save it as textinfo.py, like the title that we want to use, because we're going to use its name in another file. So in this, we are going to make a function. And this function, I want to use it as check input. We wanted to check to see if the text, or you can say check string, whatever you want. Okay. So we would say check input, and I'm going to pass a string. So I'm going to use str, and you notice that it highlights in purple. So this is going to be the string type, right? String object. Then I'm going to print out the length of my string, how many characters it is. I'm going to make it into an uppercase. And I'm going to verify that it is alphanumeric or not. Now, when you run this, nothing happens because we need another file to work with it. Okay, so what I want you to do is you are going to create a module called text info. So whenever you use a library that exists that you download, right? Like earlier you used import math. Basically, it is a file that somebody wrote, right? So we are going to write our own file called module. Now, it's very important that your file and the next Python program that you're going to write are in the same folder, in the same location. Otherwise, it doesn't work, okay? So when you save this text info, save it where you normally save all your program. And when we write the next program, you're going to save it in the same location. Otherwise, it won't be able to see each other, right? So we are going to make a module, a program, and this is our program, and we're going to use another program to run it. Okay, so that's how you use a module, is to use a Python file to run another Python file. Any question? So when you run this, I'm going to show you, nothing happens. Oops, nothing happens here. It just show you blank, right? Because we need another file to work. So a module is designed to be reused with other files. So I can have 5 different programs using that one library, that one module, okay? And so developers, what they do is they create different files for different things, and they can share it with the world, and everybody uses that, right? So it's intended to be a little bit more general emphasis where you can use it for, you know, multiple things. Okay. So that was number 13, okay? And what I'm going to do is I am going to create another file. And so I need you to open a new document. So you have text info here, right? And I need you to open up a second document, and we're going to import in our text info. Okay, and this one you can name it as the exercise. So we are going to do import text info exactly like how we name our file from the previous step. And we are going to specify our string. So str is input, enter a string. Now, in the call of your function, you have to tell it where that function is located. So we're going to say file name, function name, and we're going to pass the string. So unlike before, we just called the function. This one, you got to tell it which file it comes from. So you would say text info.check input str. This allows it to go and pull the function from the text info file, which is here, right? So make sure that these 2 files are saved in the same folder. Okay, that's very important. So my main program is this program, right? My module is text info, which I use. And this is what you see, what we call a modular design in programming, where you would use multiple files. Now, the benefit of this is in the future, right, I can add more to text info and be able to expand my program, right? I can also debug this without impacting my main program. So in programming, what we see is that we can design things in separate locations, in separate files, and be able to modify them individually. Okay, like if you need to make your program a little bit more complex, you can, right, by expanding the other module. Okay. Now for Python, when you have multiple modules, it becomes a package. So that means that I would have all the interlinking files working to make a larger program. So things that are packages are like, you know, more complex programs. You download the Python packages, right? So you have many modules. You also see things like operating system are the things that you're using to access, you know, your browser and things like that. Those can also be written as packages. So more complex software, you would see that they would have many files. Okay, so notice that we had this for text info. And this is our exercise. Now you can run the 13 exercise. So when you run this, it's going to go and pull this to check. Okay, so I'm going to put in my name. And it's going to take my name, right? It's going to go and it's going to execute the function. So it's telling me that it has 5 characters. It converts it to uppercase and it is alphanumeric. It starts with the letter, so it checks it. Even though it doesn't have number, it will still check true. Okay, so how does it check? It checks through your module text info. Bless you. By executing this function. Can I put it all in one here? Sure. But that defeats the whole purpose of using modules. Okay. We want to use modules so that way we can do things. So if I want this program to do other things, I just write another module and then call the function in my main program. Okay, easy. So you can make your program more complex that way. Just add a new file and call it in the main program. Okay. Here's the text info. And here is your exercise 13. So I get a lot of projects for even some of the more advanced students. They write everything in one program. The downside in that is when you have a bug in the program, even it, like, let's say it's 1,000 line, halfway through, if there's a bug, it stops and nothing else works. And it's really hard to fix because then you're going to have to go through 500 and something lines to look for your bug. Or, you know, in case if it's a logical error, right? It doesn't show on here, everything runs fine, but you producing inaccurate result, you have to fix it manually. That means you got to go line by line. So it is easier to do, to have like a modular approach like this. Okay, especially more complex program. Any questions? Are we okay with this? Yeah. Info check input str. Let me see your other file. And you save it. Okay, so it says text info input. Module text info has no attribute. And check input str. So you save both of them on desktop. Yeah, so I think you had it on a different desktop. Because there's a cloud desktop and then there's a OneDrive desktop and then there's a.
But you can enter both.
It should, but I think earlier you might have put the one, so this one, this tax info is on the computer desktop, but you might have saved this one on the OneDrive desktop. Yeah, sometimes I can't find it. So on the cloud drive, I normally tell my students to make a folder and put everything in that one folder. Yeah, it's a lot easier because sometimes for some reason, if it can't locate it, ideally it should, right? Like by logic, it should. But, you know, it's always good, like, especially when you have multiple files for your software like this, just make like a sort of total file. And then put it in. Yeah. Yeah, because you don't have the files together, so. Because you save it as a main, so click here. And then you need to rename it, click rename. And then you type in the name, which is text info. You want test info. You have to type it exactly like how you import it. So if it's all lowercase, then it needs to be all lowercase. So it can only reference it if it's exactly the same. All right, now. And then where's the other file? I'm just wondering. So, I'm gonna show you how you can use online interpreter, okay? Copy, highlight and copy that, copy your code. You gotta move it to the same one, so copy, just Control C, highlight everything. Okay, and then go back to this one. Okay, you're gonna add a new file. And then you can call it, you know, A2EX13 or however you name your file. .py. Click it. Okay. Now paste. Allow. Okay, now run that. Yeah, the issue with this is, okay, so we can fix this. Changes to main. Because the application wants main, yeah, all right. Now go here and change that to main, rename it. I'm sorry, yeah, rename this. Pick the three type name. Run that. See, this is why sometimes online interpreter is not ideal for modular. It should be on. Yeah, click here. So run the main first. Okay, it's nothing output. See, it's not, okay. And click run. Yeah, so the way that they make this web app is that everything pulls from main, right? Now, when you do import main, see how it highlights here? Put your cursor there. Main. So there's two main in Python. You have a main here and a main on the bottom. So the REPL gets confused, and that's what happens. So this is the only time that you're gonna see the online interpreter is not ideal. So this is why IDE would be used to store all your source code. So in programming, this is where a lot of students have problems is when they when they're trying to write modular packages. You can, if you write it and then export it, upload it, it will see it. But when you write it directly into the interpreter, it doesn't understand because the way they code the web application is to look for main in main, which is the bottom of Python. And now you're telling it to import main, so it gets confused, but it won't run without having a main. So, for this one, just use Tawny or something like that. Okay, so paste both of those in and run. I will see if I can debug it. I need to take a look at it because I've done other program in other languages using interpreter online before. Let me play with it later on. I'll show you. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so if you are using REPL, this is a little tricky, right? You know, I might record a video, or if I have time after class today, I'll show you how you can fix that. It's just having multiple files and using main on REPL is a little tricky. So this one should be used with Tawny or idle. Okay, next. What we're going to do is we are going to make a file, right? And so this is file operation. This is really cool. You can make a program that reads text. So what we're going to do is we are going to make a program, and we're going to make that program create a text file for us. Okay. And we're going to make it write these programs inside, right? So basically, I'm going to put these sentences into the text file through my Python program. And then I'm going to close the file. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we are going to use file operation. Okay. And this is in the project. You see that there's a requirement on this. So file operation in Python, it's really easy. You need to have an object. So this is a variable, right? I can call it file. I can call it FN. I can call it anything I want, as long as it's not a keyword. So you make a variable and you're going to store, and we're going to use a command called open. So this is a function to be able to open a new file. And so this file doesn't exist yet, right? We are going to make a new text file and we're going to write to it. So when you use a W here, what that does is it's going to write a new file. Okay. And it's going to create this file automatically when you tell it to open. So after I have this, now you have to have, what if I want to read the file? I would use the R here to read. Okay. So in your notes, I added some information about file operation. And what am I going to write? I'm going to go ahead and have it type for me. I am a student, and this is a new line carriage. What that does is it's going to end that line and then go to the next line. Okay. And I'm going to write the next line. I'm learning Python. Now I want to confirm that it actually wrote those two lines. So I want to print wrote to file. Is this necessary? No, right? So what it does is going to open a new file. It's going to add in these two lines. And anytime that you open a file, you got to close it, because otherwise it stays open. So what we're doing here is it's exactly like how you go to your desktop, right click, make a new text file, and then type it in. But we're going to make Python do this. Is this beneficial? Sure. I can have it automated 5 files this way, 5,000 files this way. So when you look at things like malware, right, what that does is a lot of the times it actually, modify file, right? It goes and look for a certain file through an application. And file operation is very common. Things like when you purchase things online, it creates a receipt. So it outputs a receipt for you to print. Or when I process like Amazon return, right? When I press the button, I say, I want to return this item, it generates a label for me so that way I can ship it back. So file operation is very essential in everything that we use, right? From the time that you purchase your products in the store, right? When the cashier press, you know, the total button to finish your transaction, right? It prints the receipts for you after you pay. Okay. Now, when you run this, okay, if you save your file onto your desktop, go to your desktop and see if myfile.txt exists. If you save it on your flash drive, go and see. So I saved this in my folder, right? And I would look, open up my file.txt. There it is. It wrote it for me, right? What if I wanted to write other things? I can't, right? All I have to do is come back here, right? Add in what you want to write. Now, if you don't have the new line carriage, it'd just be a long line, right? That goes forever. I'm going to show you how you can do word count, and you can also do, you can keep appending the same thing over and over again. Okay. So if you save this on your desktop, go look on your desktop to see the myfile.txt and open it up, double click it, and you would see if those sentences are in there. Okay, so congratulations, you did file operation in Python. And I can automate this for many things. Okay. Okay, so we're going to see this in application for our business receipts in a little bit. Any questions with writing to file? I don't know what happens, but a lot of times, like, students get stuck on this all the time in all my programming classes, right? For C++ or Python, they get confused about read write. So C++ is a little bit more complicated, where, you know, you have to use a certain library, but, you know, all for Python is open the file, write to it, and close the file. What if I want to read? Just change this to R, right? Okay, so I know that now my file exists here, and it shows the time that I did it, right? Okay. Any question? Are we okay? You got your files? Okay. Next. So we're going to take what we had and we are going to read from that file. Okay. So we are going to also look at the line numbers and do a word count. Okay, this one's a little more tricky, so I'm going to show you how. So you already have your file that you made. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up that file, we're going to read from it, and we're going to do line count and word count. This is 15. Okay, so once you have your file, I will also redefine it by using file. And in this one, I'm going to read. Okay. And in Python, it has a function called read lines. What that does is it's going to go and it's going to retrieve the lines from the text file, and it's going to read it. But I want to make sure that it goes through the entire line. So I'm going to use length. Otherwise, it's only going to read the string. Okay, so we want to go through and read the lines. You don't have to type my comment here. I put a block comment. I said, no, when Python read all the lines, the cursor is now at the end. So when you, just like how when you move your cursor, you start your reading at the beginning, which is position 0. And it's going to move through, even with white space, it's going to move through all the character and retrieve the character when it reads it. Okay. So once we read to the end of our file, like let's say you have a bunch of lines, in our case, 2 lines, it's going to be at the end of the 2 lines. So we have to bring it back to the beginning. Okay. So to move it back to the beginning of the file, we're going to do a seek command. And this seek function is going to put the cursor back to the position 0, which is at the beginning of your file. Okay. Otherwise, because we have to do the word count, right? We can't count the words if it is at the bottom of our file where there's no words. So we got to move it back to the beginning so we can count the number of words in those 2 sentences that we wrote. Okay. So we have to move the cursor back to the beginning. And with that, I would need to use a for loop. So I would start with the variable words. I start at 0, and I would go through and I would make it count each of the words. So what that means is I have to split the lines into substrings. So I have to use the split function and be able to print out how many words that it counts. Okay. And after that, I close the file. Okay. If you open it at the beginning, you should close it so that way it finished. Okay. So it went through and it tells me that there are 2 lines and there are 8 words in those 2 lines. So when you look at Microsoft Word, right, or like a text editor, a lot of times it would give you the word count, right? How do they do that? They simply do this, right? So in the back, you really have to think about where that cursor is at that part of your program. So if you tell it to read the line, it's at the end of your file, then you're going to move it back to the beginning in order for it to count all the words in those lines. So file operation, you have to think about like what the computer sees versus what we see. Okay. And just to reflect back on what, sorry, wrong text file. Reflects back on this, right? If I go and open my file, let's compare in the program here. So here's my document. Okay. So I have 2 lines and it tells me that, and I have 8 words. Any question? Are you able to run this on REPL? Did it create a text file on there? It should be able to. Oh, okay, you switch. Okay. I think you should be able to. I've done it on C++ on REPL before, but because C uses main, so, but I'll play with it in a little while and check for you. All right, any question? Okay. Just a few more and then we're done, okay? Okay, we're not done with that text file yet, right? What I'm gonna do is I am going to add in these lines, right? So I'm gonna reopen it, have it write a new line. I enjoy programming because it makes me think, okay? So I'm gonna add in this sentence so that will be like my 3rd line. And then I want to print out all the content. So I'm going to have it read back to me what it wrote. Okay. So let's think about that. we have to go to the end of the two sentence and then add a new sentence, then have it come back to the beginning of our file and read all the sentence. So you have to think about what the computer is actually need to do is go to after the first two sentence, add the third sentence, move the cursor back at the beginning and read all those words back. Okay? So once we understand the mechanical part from the computer, it's easier to program it. Okay. So I'm going to reopen my file for number 16. So file is open, and this the same file is my text file. And I'm going to use the A+ option, which allows me to append to my existing file. And I'm going to have it write. So if I need to write, if I use a W there, I have to move it to the end of the two lines. So you can skip that part by using the A+. What that does is it's going to append, so it's going to add the new stuff to your file. Then I'm going to add in this sentence, I enjoy programming because it makes me think. So once it adds the third sentence, I need to move it back to the beginning of the file and have it read it back to me, then close. There we go. So it added the third sentence for me and it reads it back to me. And then let me reopen this. Sorry. It added the third line in the file. So you can check in the file and see it should be there. Now, if you keep rerunning it, it's just going to keep adding and adding because the computer doesn't know the difference, right? If you keep running it, what will happen is just going to keep adding the next line, like another sentence after this, right? If you have if you want to do like an end carriage here, you can. Where if I keep rerunning the program multiple times, it just keep adding that same sentence over and over and over again. Okay, like this. See? Or I can have it loop many times to keep appending and appending. So software is really designed to streamline the tasks for the human, right? The computer saves you time, definitely. So you can verify, right? And check to see if your third sentence get added, and it should read everything back to you. So in this one, we learn how to append text to a text file. And we also use the read function to be able to read text back to us. In the last one, you learn how to write those two sentences to a text file. Also, we did word count and line count. Any question? Our operation can be definitely pretty fun. Okay. All right, on 17, 18, and 19, they are to be together. So we are going to do a retail receipt and customer input. Okay, so the first, for 17, we're going to make a module similar to what you've seen before. We are going to verify, right? Their input is digit or alphabet. We're going to save it as we're gonna save their input into a text file. So we have to do file operation. So basically, we're gonna prompt the customer, ask them to enter something. We want to verify it and then output it into the text file. And then we're gonna read and display the information that was stored. Okay. So you are going to write the program that's going to check the customer to enter their name, age, phone number, and marital status. And then we're going to use the input verification to check. Okay, so here it goes. So I posted, wait, sorry, 17. So for 17, this is what it's going to look like. We are going to import in our module. So you're going to do an import customer info. And I want to prompt them, please answer the following questions. Name, I'm going to have them enter their name. Age, input, enter their age. Phone, input, enter phone number. And then the marital variable, I'm going to have them input marital status. And I'm going to use my module, which have these functions. Okay, so here are your function call right here. So I'm going to call check name from my module, which I will write next, and I would pass name. So for check name, I want to check to see if it's alphabet, right? Check age, I'm going to check if it's digit. Check phone, also digit. And check marital status. That will be alphabet. Like they would put single or married, divorced, separated, etc. Right? And then after that, I'm going to use another function called store info because I wanted to put it into a file, right? I want to output it into a text file so I can print it for the customer. Okay. And it's going to take all of the things that they input and then store it. And then it's going to read it back to the customer. This is what you entered. So I have another function calledrinfo. And it's going to go and retrieve what they've entered to display it. And then print thank you. So whenever that you fill out those forms online, there are multiple steps, right? Input validation, store your information into a database, and then read it back to you. And then let you print out your file, right? Like when you fill out FAFSA for school, or, you know, if you fill out like, let's say an auto loan application or apply for a credit card, those things, right? Usually it has these steps. And we are using two files, so we are going to make another Python file that's going to validate. So right now, if you run this program, it's going to throw error because it's going to look for customer info, right? So make sure that when we use modules, we keep them together, save them on the same location. So if you save this one to your flash drive, make sure you save the next one to your flash drive. Okay, any question regarding our main program? This is our main program for number 17. And we are going to use customer info. So in a company, they would do this for the clients or the customer, right? But for the employees, they might have another module for the employee because employees might have to fill out more information, right? Like work history, salary information, benefits, etc. But you can have one main program that's general, and then you can expand it for other purposes. So when you run this right now, as it is, it's gonna throw error, so don't run it yet. Okay, save it to the location where you want to keep it. And then next, we're gonna do the customer info where we would define all the functions. Any questions so far? Are we still working on 17? Okay, so save it. You can save this one as number 17. Next, we're gonna write this one. Sorry, let me close my shell. It's a little lengthy. Let me zoom in real quick. Sorry. Okay, let's start there and then we'll scroll down. So for the first function, right? But make sure we save this file as customer info, like how you import it. Okay, make sure we save it like that. Customerinfo.py. We're gonna write a function called check name. And we're gonna pass name, we're gonna check to see if it is alphabet. Because sometimes if they type in a number, then it's gonna tell them to input a valid name. So if name is alphabet, we're gonna print their name, else enter a valid name. Then we're gonna do another function to check age. And here we want to check to see if it is digit. So we would say if age is digit, print age, else ask them to enter the valid age. And we would repeat the same thing for the phone, exactly the same, but we're gonna pass phone. Okay, that's their phone number. We're gonna check for digit. Then for the marital status, we also want to check to see if it's alphabet. So how do you determine to see what's right? Just basically common sense here, numbers, letters, marital status, most likely they'll type in just letters. So we want to use is alpha here again. If marital is alpha, right, print it. Else, we ask them to enter it again. And the problem asks us to output it into text file. So we want to take what they have entered, and so we would put it onto a text document, so that way they can print it, or we can print it, right? And so for every check, you want to use a separate function. That way it is easier to operate, right? And also, in case we need to modify it, we can just modify the function body. So the first four function here, that's what we call input validation. That's just to check to see if they have input the right or valid information. And that's very important. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. Okay. As most of you probably passed the first function already. Then after we check all of the input, we want to put it into a file, just like what you've seen in the last two exercises. We're gonna have a store info function, and we're gonna bring their name, age, phone, and marital status. We're gonna add that to our file called customer information.txt. And we're gonna write. So whatever they enter, we're gonna take that and put it into our text file. And we want to do name with the line character, so it's on separate line, name, age, phone, marital, and close the file. We want to show to the person who runs the program that information is stored onto that text file. Like how, your computer says, the text is saved to the file. Your file has been saved, right? That's what we're doing there. And we have one more. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And we want to take what was stored and read it back. So we have a function calledrinfo for read info. We're going to pass the same variable which stores the customer input. Sorry, I gotta fix this one. Yeah. Make sure that it's the same file. And then we're gonna read it. and close our file. So once you have this, make sure you save it as customerinfo.py because that's what was imported into our main program. So this is a module that you create, and using this module, we can run the application that we wrote. So these two files work together. So make sure that we save this one also in the same folder or location of our 17 file. You're doing very good. We had gone through 7 chapters in 3 days. Did you know that? So you're doing very good. I'm very proud of you. Okay. Did you miss anything? Did you need to go back to the beginning or? Okay, so once you have this, save it and you can run it. When you run this, nothing happens. So you got to run the 17, the exercise 17, which is the prior program that we wrote. And it's going to read this one together. So make sure we save it in the same folder or the same location and then run the 17 and it's going to execute the function you define here. So the module is this. We basically define all the function and we call the function in 17. That's how it works. Your main program has function calls. Your module has function definition. Oops, I know some of you still typing, so there it is. I can't run because it's gonna show my shell and block the bottom. So you run the exercise 17 program and see if it works. If there's error, likely that you type something wrong in your module or misname it or save it in another location. Make sure that we save it together in one location. Make sure that the import statement matches with your module name. Upper lowercase matters. Okay, so if it's all lowercase one word, make sure it's exactly like that with your import statement. That's how you troubleshoot it. So this gives you a complete program on how you can check people's. So the way you test it, right? You input your name, your age, marital status information. You can also check, purposely type it wrong and see if it checks wrong. Okay? If it shows that you have to input the valid information. And ultimately, also, after you run your program, look at the file to see if it wrote your name, your age, your marital status in there, right? Go and open up the text file to see if it appends it and read it back to you. So if your program works, all your functions should work. Okay. Now, if we throw address in there, we would have to check for alphanumeric, right? But you get the point. Any questions? Yeah. Oh, because you read it on the side. So when you do the append, when you put the another symbol, it's still appended, it's still active, so you then understand what it is. So when you do the Asian block, that's what so as many times as we ran this, yeah. So the way that you can also get rid of it is you can delete it, and then run the other program first. Other questions? How? Yeah, I didn't understand that. Those are built-in functions, and built-in functions are low-level commands. Run your main function and the other files. Yeah, so the last function. Functions with no, that's the other file. fine with the other one alpha, right? Go up the top, just the other one is alpha, yeah. That's alpha. How do you spell narrow? Is that margin? No. That's fine. Yeah, the error was from the prior, just got cleared. Yeah, that was the is alpha that was giving you a hard time. Okay, so any questions regarding this? Right, so the module, when you run, nothing happens. When you run the 17, when you run this, it should tell you to enter your name, age, phone number, right? Let me see. No file. Customer information, text. Oh, I see. I had it typed wrong. Make sure your file name is the same. I had a missing R, and so it threw the error. There we go. Okay. And you should be able to have the output of your file. So for my customer information, I should have the information I type. Okay. We're doing okay on this? Any problem? Okay, so 18, I actually screenshotted and put it on there because it's a little long, but I'll explain 18 now. Okay, so we are gonna make a module first. We're gonna calculate sales tax at 7.75% of the subtotal. And we are going to display the sales tax amount. We're gonna also calculate the shipping cost, which is 5% of your subtotal. Then we're gonna have the grand total, which is tax plus shipping plus the subtotal. Okay. And we want to be able to put in the receipt.tax, our product information, our discount, our subtotal, our tax, and our grand total. That's how the receipt should have, right? And we will close the file. Then we want to display, thank you for shopping with us. And so first we're going to make a module. So for my exercise 18, I have an object called F out. This is for my file out. And I want to be able to open a file called receipt.txt and write. Okay. Then I would have a tax, which is 0.075. And if you need the screenshot for this, is on the assignment page. I put an image on there for you, so you can use that as well. Then for my function, I would have a total. And what I want to do is I want to go through their shopping cart and add everything up. Okay, so I would have a subtotal and I would go through their list of products and add everything up, because likely that, you know, they might buy more than one product. Okay. Then I want to print out their shopping cart, which is their customer list, their purchase list, and the subtotal. This is what they chose, and this is the amount for the subtotal. Then I have shipping, and this is going to be the subtotal times 5%, which is 0.05. Then I want to display the shipping. Then for the next variable, which is your T amount, and this is going to be tax times subtotal. So that will be, and my tax is going to be above, right? You see that here, this is a global variable that can be used inside the function. Now, some variable like T amount is a local variable only used inside this function. Okay. It's like you have a nickname, you use it at home only, and then you have a formal name, which is your global variable that's recognized by all the functions. Okay. So T amount is local and it's only seen by this function, whereas tax is global, it's above the function. It can be used inside or outside. Okay, so tax is going to be, or T amount is going to be tax times subtotal. And we want to print out our tax information. Then our grand total is going to be subtotal plus T amount plus shipping. Then we are going to call on our receipt function, which we define later. So this function is going to call on the receipt function. So it's going to take all of this and dump it into the receipt file. Okay. So the total function is going to use the information that it computed and add it to the receipt. And in that, we have to tell it to write to file. So we have a customer list, a subtotal, and a total shipping pass-in parameter. Let me close my shell. Then after that, we are going to define the receipt function where we would write. So what I did here was I try to make it look very close to the receipt. So I did a bunch of ASCII art, if you know what I mean. So it's going to look like an actual receipt when you see it. So I have it written out and I try to align it with the dots, like items that they bought and their price. So 2 columns. And I had looped through and added to from the list of the customer. I'm going to add it and show it. Okay. So if you're on Canvas, I screenshot this program and I add it there. So you can look at the image as well for number 18. And then I have it written also. So I'm going to pull the customer list and add it to the receipt. I forgot my charger. So again, so hopefully we'll make it last. A lot of typing today. And so after that, I would have my subtotal, my shipping, and my tax formatted. So you notice that I'm using the 3 quotation that allows me to add the text here. Okay. With the format in blocks. Not comment, but it's gonna write these text information as string. Now, notice that we're not using graphical user interface, so we have to use like string characters to kind of line things up so it looks nice on the receipt. Okay. On your cash register, you see a lot of this too. Like when it prints out on the receipt, it has like these divided lines. Sometimes they are able to add graphics and things like that. Basically, it's image file for advertisement or logo. But you know, basically I added the ASCII art, which is like these symbols to kind of separate things. So this would show the information here on the receipt, along with the top, which is the heading of our receipt. And then after that, I wanted to display, thank you for shopping with us. And we want to convert the percentage here, otherwise it will show as decimal because most customer, they won't know, right? So we want it to make it look nice and clean with the percentage. And then we want to tell the cashier or the customer that the receipt has been printed. Any questions? So again, right, if you decide to work on this later on Canvas assignment page or assignment 2, I added an image on there that has the code. You can also refer to that, or the video will go up tonight. And I will try to link it tonight for you. Okay. Now you don't have to do all those dashes. Okay, if you do those dashes, it just display that on the receipt. But if you decided not to do those dashes, right, it's fine. It's just a way that I put a line on the receipt. So there's like a section where it shows subtotal, shipping, tax, and total. Instead of dashes, some people, they use asterisk or other symbol, right? Basically, it's just a way that we can make the receipt looks a little bit more nicer by sectioning. Now, when you run this, if everything works accordingly, nothing is output. It is a module. It's designed to run with the next program, which is number 19. And I think I'm gonna stop at 19. I will explain 20, but I'm not gonna make you do 20. Okay. I know it's a lot of typing. So now every time that you go pay for something and you print out your receipt, you know what it takes to put together a program like that, right? Everything that you touch and use have some form of software. So run the program, no output for this one. We will use it with the next one. Everybody okay with this? Any questions? We're gonna do 19. 19's to work with 18. Remember, whatever that you save, this one, I save it as A2EX18 so I can import it into 19. So you can save it wherever you want, tax, subtotal, you know, or discount, whatever, right? So whatever name that you saved your module, that's gonna be the name that you use for import. I have A2EX18 no space .py. I'm gonna use that for number 19. Okay. Anyone still working on this? Any questions? Yeah. Yeah, this is a function call, so I don't think you need. Yeah, you don't need to pick up the phone there. It's not a function definition. Yeah, you call the function. You should be fine there. All right. So now we're gonna do the main program to use with this one. So ultimately, I can use this with any online shopping or regular shopping, right? The whole point in writing a module is to be able to reuse it. Okay. All right. So for 19, here it is. Let me zoom in. Now so 1 second, let's talk about 19. So for 19, we're gonna make a best electronics program where, you know, they sell laptop, gaming system, TV, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, right? And this is priced before inflation. So we're gonna prompt the customer to enter their choice, then store their choice into the subtotal, and then store it and then find the subtotal, and then ask them if they want to select other products. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to be able to use the module from the last one. This should say number 18. To be able to output the receipt. Okay, so basically it's a shopping program. All right, so first line, I'm gonna import in my previous exercise, which is the module, exactly how you name it. Okay, then I'm gonna have a dictionary for all the products that's listed. So I would have laptop, this is $2.99, 99 cents, gaming. So the first item, right, this is the key, the second item, and the third item. And inside this, I nest it with the tuple. So this is how you can differentiate item 1, 2, 3, 4. So when the customer picked choice 1, it's gonna bring in the laptop and its price. If the customer picks choice 3, option 3, it will list the TV and the price. Okay, so we were able to nest in the tuple, which has the information for each of the item, each of the electronics, and we would make the option. So in C++, right, here you would write a case switch statement from, you would use like a vector or an array. But in Python, we don't really need the case switch, okay? We simply list the dictionary, which has all the items that we need as nested tuple and as sub elements here. And then we would print, here is the list of the product. We would have it loop through and access each of the item and display it. And then as they select 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, we append it to the list. Okay. And here, this loop right here allows them to keep choosing until they stop it, and it's going to exit out of the while loop. So I have a keep choosing. If they press yes, it's going to keep prompting them the products and asking them to choose. So with that, as they choose, we need to keep adding the products back to the customer list. So the first round, it's going to say, here are the items, pick your choice. If I pick TV, it's going to ask me, do you want to keep choosing? I say yes. And then I picked another item, Xbox, and it's going to add Xbox to my list. And it's going to keep asking me if I want to keep choosing until I press no, right? Then it's going to give me the subtotal, the tax, the shipping, and the total. Now, people would type upper and lowercase. So whatever that they type, we want to force it into the uppercase as we check for things in uppercase. If they type yes, right, with the lowercase y or an uppercase y. And so once you have this program written, you would run this program, which goes and retrieve all the tax computation, the shipping, right, calculation, and the grand total from the other file. So make sure that these two go together, saved in the same location, but as what we practiced before. So for our project in the future, you already learned how to write function to output to file, right? You can output like, you know, what kind of birds they selected and the information of that bird. Whatever you like. You can have it output to file or and then read from file if you wish. So file operation we've seen multiple times today. When we come back, I'll show you how you can read from CSV, like your data, if you record numbers for your data, and then graph it. Sorry, I'm just getting like a sudden chill on my back. Okay. So at the end here, we are going to get the grand total for our selections. And that's coming from the module, okay? So when you run it and it tells you if it's the wrong thing on the module, go fix the module. So when you run this program and if your other module works, it should prompt you, you know, to pick Nintendo or Xbox or TV. So here I'm going to go ahead and pick choice 2, press enter. I'm going to keep selecting, or if I type a lowercase y, it should let me go again. Let's say I pick choice 4, go again, choice 1, and then I'm done shopping. No. And it tells me that my grand total or my subtotal is $15.49.97. My shipping is $77.50. My tax is $120.12. So it depends on what you pick, how many items you pick. And my grand total for my selection today, which includes PC, Xbox, and laptop, and that is $1,747.59. That's with shipping, all included, right? So this stuff should also show on your receipt as you have done that with the module. Now you notice that we are doing the 2 indices here because of this, the product information and its price. So you have to use multiple indices to access, right? Because this is a tuple, which is a subcontainer of the dictionary, which is a larger container. So if you're using REPL, right, this is going to be your main program. So main.py. And then the other file is going to be that. Okay. So it's going to be whatever that file, the module file, we're going to import that into the main and run it. That should work. So when we run number 19, it's going to read 18. And if we had everything done correctly on 18 and 19, then it should prompt you to pick an item from the list. You can press the option 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Press enter, and then it's going to ask you keep going or not. You can say yes or no, so Y or N. And then after that, it should give you, eventually when you press no is when it's going to give you the total, right? If you keep shopping and you go yes. So this is why we use a while loop. So it's going to keep going as long as this is true, right? As long as they press yes, it's going to keep prompting them. What do you want to pick? And then until they press no, then it's going to exit the loop and add everything up. That's when we would check for the subtotal, the tax, and all of that. Now, importantly, check to see if your receipt output. So when you run this program successfully, you should have like a receipt file. Open that text file up and see if it added all the items that you selected. And if you did, congratulations, you did a retail purchase program with receipt. That's more complete than the last one that you see. Because when you eat it, it's still part of fish. Okay, so there's. Give me a second, let me hit this so it doesn't block everybody's view. Oh. Yes, I can. Let me check my. Give me a second, let me see if I got the error thing. Yeah, so. One and press go. No. Yeah, just put the number. So run it again. So. Yeah, type over. I think there is. Yeah. Okay, you have to put your cursor here, back it up. There you go. Yeah, even with one space, because it's indentation for Python, just now run your 19. Okay, exercise 19. So it tells you. Do file save as for me? I'm sorry, so. Put on your desktop. Oh, okay, it's already open, so close this. Close. File save this one.